also means you.
You said chairperson.
No, we're about to start.
So feisty. Be humble.
Richard, do you really need to?
She didn't even hear me say it. I'm sorry.
No, she doesn't.
Okay.
Music on.
That's when I was voting. I'm so
Are you on TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok. I don't have this thing.
Crystal, are you on TikTok?
All right, I've been given the go-ahead, so I will hereby call to order the 10th meeting of the 62nd session of the Student Senate on October 16th at 7 p.m. If I throw things around. When I call your name, please answer with either present or here. Senator Azidlani.
Here.
Senator Babin.
Present.
Senator Bradley. Senator Brown. I saw him. Where did he go? Senator Castillo.
Present.
Senator Cowden.
Present.
Senator Cunningham.
Present.
Senator Day.
Here.
Senator Ezell.
Here.
Senator Flores.
Present.
Senator Gibson.
Present.
Senator Glover.
Present.
Senator Hopper.
Here.
Senator James.
Here.
Senator Kata.
Present.
Senator Kahinde. Senator Khan.
Here.
Senator Majors.
Present.
Senator Martin.
Here.
Senator Mattson. Senator John Miller.
Here.
Senator Kate Miller.
Here.
Senator Morgan. Senator Mounts.
Present.
Senator Nazir.
Present.
Senator Nguyen.
Present.
Senator Njau. Senator Peter.
Here.
Senator Peterson.
Present.
Senator Ritchie.
Here.
Senator Sanchez.
Here.
Senator Spencer. Senator Tran.
Present.
Senator Tubak. Senator Tucker.
Present.
Senator Wang. Senator Webb.
Present.
Senator Wright. Senator Zacharias.
Here.
So we have met quorum with 29 total in attendance. Simple majority will be 15, 2/3 will be 20, and 2/3 of the majority will be 28. With that, Section 3, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the last meeting's minutes? Seeing none, they will be adopted as such. Moving into item 4, public forum. So public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate. This is a time for the association to listen to the community, or to what the community has to say. And to that we offer our undivided respect and attention. I would like to remind everyone that although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the association or the university. Lastly, in the essence of time, we do limit speeches in public forum to a length of 3 minutes unless the speaker has spoken to us about it ahead of time. That being said, we do have a couple on the docket tonight. We will start with Dr. Estyn.
Hi. All right, thanks. My name is Aaron Estyn, and as that says, I am the Dean of Students, and if you read down there in the fine print, I know you don't care, but we're all here, so we're going to make the best of it. All right, cool. You can go ahead and click that. So SGA, the exec board asked me to come in and just talk a little bit about who I am and what I do, so I will try to do that briefly within the 3 minutes. It's a long and exhaustive story of who really makes up Aaron Estyn, but we'll do just a skim through and go over it. So I'll talk a little bit about myself briefly. I'll talk a little bit about what I do. I'll talk a little bit about student affairs, mission, and vision, which kind of plays into it. We'll look at it quickly at an org chart. We'll look at the ODAA, other duties as assigned, which is a big part of what I do. And then if there's time, of course, that we'll do some Q&A. So you see there who Aaron Estyn is. First of all, most importantly to me, I'm daddy, and that's my little pumpkin bear, Vivian Opal, age 6. She's in kindergarten. Today was picture day, so I'm very excited to go home and see how that went. I'm from Garden City originally. Yeah, I'll wait for you to say something, which unfortunately means that I'm better than some of you in the room, but we won't dwell on that. Yeah. Now, not when I was there. So I went to K-State. I got a Bachelor of Music Education. I went to Arizona State for my master's. Bounced around, left the field after I worked at Arizona State, did some random things. Returned to higher ed, worked at the University of California, San Diego. Then I went on to Texas Tech University, where I eventually earned my doctorate from there. Worked at Bethel College before I came here. And Bethel College is a very small liberal arts college to the north, about half an hour, about 500 students. So if you look at Bethel College and think about 500 students compared to everywhere else, I like to tell, I've never worked in a building, like a residence hall building, that was less than 500 people until I went to Bethel. But then I'm here, and I've been here, this is my third fall. I think that's right, third fall. So, student affairs, our vision, and this is the main thing that you'll hear, especially if you talk to Dr. Hall, this is kind of the thing that all of us in student affairs, the mantra that we can all repeat, is that we're connecting every student. And what that means is we're doing everything we can to create opportunities for all of you and all of your peers to find a place where you belong on campus. One latch point. It may be through student government, it may be through your academic program, it could be through a performance, it could be through a club or an activity, intramurals. We want everybody to find something where there are people who know that you're here and that you belong. So we're constantly looking for those opportunities and looking for ways to expand those so that you all feel like this is the place for you. We do that through our mission, which primarily I bolded 3 words there that I think are really important. That's educate, equip, and empower. And that's what we try to do in all of our programs. So it may not seem like a program in the residence hall or something that SAC puts on works towards that, but everything we do has one of those aspects to it. We're teaching you things that hopefully you're going to take into the classroom. We're teaching you things that you'll take into your life beyond this experience here on campus. We want to make sure that you're equipped and ready for whatever comes next in your life, and that you are empowered as people who can make a change. So that's what we're working towards. Okay. This is an org chart of our entire division. It's really small, so you can't see it. And so you can go ahead and click again. And this kind of focuses more directly on the areas that I work with. So the areas I work with specifically, I work with housing and residence life, and you'll get a chance to hear from some of our folks here in a little bit about housing and residence life. We have about 1,400, 14 something on campus, students who live on campus with us. So it's not a huge part of our overall campus community, but it is a vibrant part of our campus community. And we hope to continue to grow and have more and more students, more and more space for students to live on campus. I also work with student conduct and community standards. So occasionally, people will try to do things that are outside of our established parameters of behavior. None of you, right? You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes people do stuff that's against the rules, right? Nobody in this room, I understand. But occasionally we have people who kind of bounce against those parameters, and so we try to educate those folks so that they make safer and smarter decisions in the future. And our Associate Dean of Students, Scott Jenson, who, handsome guy at the back of the room, he'll come up here in a little bit to talk about some other stuff, but I work directly with Scott in his role working with housing and student conduct. Additionally, I work with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, so working with that office to make sure all of our students from our various identities are represented on campus, all the programs and things that come out of that office, and my office is actually directly across the hall from ODI. And then finally, I work with student involvement, which includes student government, all fraternities, sororities. I'm almost done. I'm working on it. And then, so a lot of things through that area as well. Quick, and help me out. I do a lot of other random things. I'm on a lot of committees across campus. Student affairs presence, if Dr. Hall can't be somewhere, typically I'm the person who steps in. See a lot of different things I do there. A big part of what I do is crisis management. If you paid attention, we've had a few folks who've passed away as we started this semester. And so a big part of what I do is send out those notifications to faculty, staff, and try to coordinate our response. So thank you all very much. If you ever have questions, feel free to come on by. Like I said, I'm right across the hall from ODI. So, cool. Oh, look, there you go. All right. Oh, look at that. So, questions. And it's got my contact info on there. That's my real cell phone number. So it's in my pocket. Easy. And then I need those follows. So that's the Dean of Students Twitter handle. Right.
Get them any way you can, right?
Thanks. That was cute, right? Thanks.
Right.
All right. Cool. That's it. So,
Are there any questions for Dr. Austin?
stunned silence. Awesome.
Impeccable job.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
Senator Mounts.
Could you speak a little bit to your position as the Supreme Court advisor?
Yes. I am the Supreme Court advisor. That's pretty much where we are right now. No, I've been working with Kat, our Chief Justice, trying to figure out how we can best move that group forward. We've run into a little bit of a roadblock in that one of our faculty justices has resigned. So actually I sent an email to our faculty senate president to start the ball rolling to get a new faculty person put on. I know that there's been a new appointment here recently, so now that we believe we're going to have enough folks to actually kind of get the group together, we can start to get all the justices together and then work. I know there are some senators who are working on legislation to help improve and work with our processes with the Supreme Court. One of the things actually Scott, Jenson, and I have been in conversation about is how could we potentially utilize the Supreme Court in some of our other processes that we utilize maybe as an appeal board or a hearing board for things, whether it's conduct or our academic integrity process or organizations, that there may be an option for us there. But we kind of needed to get everybody in place so we can make some of those larger decisions. But.
Any other questions for Dr. Austin? Senator Ritchie.
First off, I'd like to say, fellow music ed student.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know how much how much of a hand you have in event planning. You seem like a pretty busy guy. But have there been any plans to collaborate more with the College of Fine Arts in terms of having live music or something at events more? Because I know that's been kind of in discussion more or less all the time in the School of Music, at least. Is that like anything happening there?
That's a great question. I think that there are other folks who'd be better equipped to answer that question, people who work more specifically directly with programming. But I will say that one of the things that we try to do within our division is we're constantly looking for ways to bridge the gap between other areas of campus, specifically academic areas. So if there are opportunities to engage in that way, I think we'd all be open to that. But student involvement, maybe more specifically Student Activities Council, Randy Beggs, or Zach, what's Zach's last name? Schinkel in the student involvement office will be the folks maybe to kind of reach out to first with that. So, good question.
Any other questions for Dr. Austin? Seeing none, thank you ever so much.
All right, it's quite possibly the best day of my life. Thank you very much.
Next up is housing and sorry, I choked on air.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hey, you're welcome. Happy Boss's Day, by the way, boss. My name is Scott Jenson. As Dr. Austin said, I serve as your all's Associate Dean of Students, and I have the opportunity to work with both Housing and Residence Life and Student Conduct and Community Standards. I'm here before you all today to talk about our rates for the 2020 and 2021 year. It's crazy to think about that already. As we plan for next year, to welcome new students and to welcome some of our continuing students back on campus. What we've given you, and hopefully I think all of you now, I've babbled long enough to let you all get the sheet. What you can see is we're taking a little bit different approach this year. We are looking to raise the rate of our single bedrooms 3.5%, give or take a little fraction of a percent, across the board. And then for our double rooms in our first year areas, so both the suites and Shocker Hall, we're actually looking to decrease our rates by about 1.1-ish%. And then our triple rooms, which we don't have a ton of in Shocker Hall, but we do have some, we're decreasing those about 5%. So our goal is for our incoming students to continue to try and make Wichita State an attractive place to come to, and by keeping our rates as low as possible, certainly our lowest cost rates, we want Wichita State to feel affordable to students. And we know that housing in general is expensive here on campus because all of our buildings are new. But in analyzing our demand, we know we have a huge demand for our single rooms, and so we thought we would look at increasing those rates a little bit more, and then again, as I said, decreasing our other rates across the board. And then finally, for our meal plans, pretty simply, we're not increasing our rates, we're leaving them flat. We will absorb a small increase from Chartwell's, but we'll absorb those costs in other places, again, in an effort to keep our costs as low as possible across the board. I think that summarized. Sorry, Mandy Craven is also here. She's our Associate Director in Housing, and she really does all the work. She should really be standing up here, but she doesn't really like talking to crowds. So I will yield the remaining 52 seconds of my time. I don't even know if that's even close, but to questions.
Senator Babin.
So are these rates for semester or for the full year?
They are for the semester. Thank you.
Senator James.
How do you guys choose who lives in a expandable room, like as opposed to like a single bedroom that isn't expandable?
That is an excellent question. So all of our rooms are self-selected by our students, and so we don't actually choose. We set up at the beginning of the year which rooms will be true singles and which ones will be expandable. And for those who may not know, an expandable single is a room that people know when they select it that it could go from a single to a double. And because of that, we have extra furniture in there. And as you can see from the rate chart, the rate is a little bit lower than a regular single. And what will happen then is if our demand for housing exceeds what we would hope our capacity to be, those are the first rooms we would look to expand. And to answer that question directly, I don't know if the question might be which ones do you expand first, or just if that's the case, it's this upcoming year. What we're doing is based off of when people applied for housing or when they selected that room. And I'll let Mandy maybe answer that question more directly. I don't know which of those exactly it will be, but you can probably just yell from the back. Oh, she needs to be in the mic, as I've been told by our technical folks in the back. So.
Hi, yes, I'm Mandy Craven. For that process for determining which expandables will be expanded first into a double space, we will be going off of the last people to have selected their room. So they applied later in the process. They selected a later room, so those will be expanded into a double first to give priority to our students that signed up sooner, that were maybe on the ball a little quicker.
Senator Ritchie.
Do you have any like ballpark estimates on what the percentage of capacity is?
Currently?
Yeah, and maybe what is planned?
Yeah, so currently, Mandy can give you an exact number, so I will yield the microphone to her.
Overall, our capacity right now is still at 104.1% for campus-wide.
Senator Papin.
How do these new rates compare to other Regents universities in Kansas?
Yeah, so we generally run fairly close to the top. Our rates are almost the highest across the board, and that is again because all of our buildings are either 5 years old or newer. And so the reality is the newer a building is, the more expensive it is to pay off the money you borrow to build it. So yeah, not something we're proud of or excited about, and that's why we're trying to slow down how fast we increase our rates.
Senator Ritchie.
I have a follow-up question. Do you know how? Can you tell me how it's broken down, the percentage by building?
Yeah. Yes. So the suites, I believe, is basically 100% full, plus or minus maybe one vacancy. Shocker Hall is also just about completely full. She's saying 99 in my ear right now. And that's just basically, it would be completely full, but we basically have movement of people currently switching rooms to, whether they don't get along with their roommate or they just want a different type of room, otherwise we'd be full there as well. And then the flats, going back to, how we count capacity in the flats is not how many people could we actually fit in there. We set our capacity at 369. And that's based off of only one person being in an expandable single, and so the flats currently is at about 116%. And so overall that puts us at our 104.1.
Senator Nguyen, do you still have a question?
We don't have the information for last year's going into this year, but could you just give us a little bit of a rundown about how the changes were different from last year's?
Yeah, so last year we did approximately 2.5% across the board. Mostly, and so let me explain that just a little bit further. When we took over the flats, we kept, for those of you who don't know, we had Fairmount Towers, and then we took over running the flats, and folks moved from the flats to from the Fairmount Towers to the flats, and we kept those rates the same the first year. And so we had to increase those rates to be market value once we were running the flats normally in year two. So those rates got adjusted, but as a whole, we basically went up 2.5%.
Senator James.
Could you explain the difference in the unlimited access, premium, and platinum unlimited access as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, they're all the same in terms of they all give you unlimited access to Shocker Dining anytime they're open, so you can go in as many times as you want throughout the day. The only difference is the amount of dining dollars you add to it, so you can see it's either 75, 250, or 400. And so that's really the only difference between the plans. And the name, to make them sound more fancy and fun.
Senator Babin.
Are there plans rolling to make more affordable housing like the Fairmont Towers once was?
We've considered at the current site of Fairmont Towers a nice, no, I'm just kidding. I was going to say like a camping ground site. So we have investigated a few options, most of which the cost of renovating existing buildings is really expensive. And so what we are looking at currently is we know really close to campus there's a lot of new construction that's happening. And so if you look at the corner of 21st and Oliver, there's a new building going in, and then across 17th down near Oliver, they're building there as well. And so we're kind of in a wait and see what the demand for our on-campus housing is before we look to build new, because the worst thing you can do is build something and then not occupy it, because then you have to charge more for your rates just to cover your costs. So that's a really long answer to say not really at this point, is we're in a wait and see, because what we do firmly believe is some of the off-campus housing will be less pricey, more affordable, if you will. But it doesn't come with some of the things that on-campus housing does provide in terms of the convenience, the community, and the college experience that we tout of being on campus. So hopefully does that answer your question? Okay.
Senator Mounts.
So with the flats and the suites being privately owned, is there any option for non-first-year students to basically partake in housing that's not owned by a private company in any time in the future?
Short answer, I guess, would be no, not immediately. Our only options for upper class students starting next year will be the flats, and so we anticipate first-year students filling both Shocker Hall and the suites. So does that answer that question? Because it goes to Senator Babin's question in terms of us building new, and we're sort of in a wait and see in terms of us building or taking over possibly. I mean, that hasn't been discussed. Don't quote me on that. But before we make any moves, we're waiting to see what the market bears in terms of this new housing that's coming in around us.
Senator Ritchie.
Just kind of out of curiosity, I guess, how much of these rates been inflated just because of demands? Like, what's the sort of base that the university or company would charge compared to what it is being currently because of the demand?
So, I mean, that's a great question, and it's not to, I would say if we were to price at what we felt the demand was, we could have raised our rates across the board significantly, because what we've seen is, as Dr. Austin said, we want to grow our housing on campus, and we want to see people connected, and we feel like when you stay on campus, you're more likely to get involved. And so when I say this, it might sound weird, but we know also that there's only a certain number of people that can live in a building and have that building be a good building to live in. And so we're trying not to cram full our building. But what we've seen is with expandable singles and other things, we've had more people stay with us than we anticipated, basically, that we set our capacity at, that we thought we'd be more in the 1,400 range, 1,370, and we're at 1,460 right now. And when I say we didn't anticipate it, we built in the expandable singles to go to 1,500 to house all the people who want to stay on campus. It's just a long answer to say we probably could have raised these rates a lot more and seen that the market would bear those, but we don't want to do that. And again, similarly, we don't want to charge first-year students who there is a live-on requirement. We don't want to max out what we could charge them and drive them away from Wichita State. We want people to come here, and we want our rates to be as affordable as possible. And so what we're doing is really raising the price of the single which is more of a luxury and not a must-have, in order to cover the cost, the increasing costs we see across the board, to make sure that, again, those who want to have that on-campus experience can do so at a lower cost. That's a really long answer, but does that help? We could, I guess the short answer would be we could have raised them a lot higher. It has nothing to do with demand of how we chose to do it. What we chose to do is look at what we anticipate our costs being next year, and try and cover those in a more creative fashion. It has nothing to do with necessarily demand, and it's not like going back to my econ class. We didn't go supply demand and look at where those intersected and create the price point that way.
Senator Mounts.
So with John Rolfe being on the Board of Regents and also owning 25% of the flats, do you think it's a conflict of interest to basically raise rates since they are the ones to approve those rates?
That's an excellent question. I will tell you, our rate with them is flat, not flat, but there's a flat amount that it increases annually. Our setting of the rates for the flats is about us covering our costs in terms of staffing, electricity, all the other things that we do with them. So they don't help us set our rates in terms of what we're charging students.
Before we get to your follow-up, Senator Tucker.
If I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that the available housing is filling up thus far every year, correct?
Yes.
Follow-up? To that end, I suppose my question to you then is, what demand are you looking for prior to okaying further construction?
Yeah, and that's an excellent question. So to go from the idea of we want more housing to actually having a building be available to occupy is about a 2-year process. To get funding approved and to get it bonded, like to borrow the money, and then to actually go out to bid, to pick a construction company, and then have them actually build the building. 2 years from now, we know that approximately 700 to 800 additional bed spaces will be available adjacent to campus. And so but we know in 1 year from now about 500 beds will be available adjacent to campus, and we'll be able to see where our demand, how that impacts our demand. Does that make sense? And so we also know that we currently have a model that will hold our anticipated demand based off of any model, like our modeling of future demand. We think we can hold what that is with our current buildings in a way that we still feel good about with the expandable singles. So the direct answer to your question would be every indicator across the country is in 7 years we're going to start seeing a decline in students who are coming to campus. Like the population falls of college-age students coming to campus. So once you build a building, you have to pay it for 30 years, and so you just have to be careful about making that future investment. Hopefully that answers that question.
Senator Mounts.
So with the amount you pay to, I guess, the Flats LLC, how much is that rate, or how much do you pay to the LLC, and how is that rate determined?
We have a lease with them. It's called a master lease, and we pay them. I don't have the exact total at my fingertips, but it lines up pretty much with close to the rates we're charging, if that makes sense. Like with the amount that we charge students, we anticipate bringing enough to cover that lease as well as come close, or as well as pay heat, rent, or not heat, gas, water, staff, all of those other things over there. So it's basically a break-even proposition for us.
Senator Sanchez.
Is there any sort of communication talk about taking out the requirement that first-year students have to live on campus?
At this point, there's not necessarily, and we don't have a requirement so that we fill our buildings. That's not why we have it. Again, not all first-year students have to have. You could answer this question for me. We have a requirement in Wichita State because we think that students in their first year, it's the most important year to make sure they're settled in and make the connections that they need to make in order to be successful. And the reason we don't require all students is we feel as though students who are close by still have a supportive environment that hopefully will support their success on campus. And so I don't know that we would change that first year requirement because we still want people who are coming from far away to have a connection point on campus where they are going to be able to connect and be successful in their first year. That was a really long answer, but I didn't want to just say no. I wanted to explain why.
Senator Day.
Yes, this reveals my own ignorance, but do you know exactly what percentage of first-year students actually do live on campus? Because a certain percentage do not because they live close enough to campus.
I do. It's approximately 9%. 8 or 9. Oh, that don't or do live on campus?
No, of first-year students that don't live on campus.
Oh, first-year students that don't live on campus. I do not have that number. Sorry, I thought I went to someone with total students who live on campus is 8 or 9%. I think of our first year. Manny, do you know approximately the number of first-year students that stay on campus? It's right around 1,000, and so if you take our total first-year class number, that'll give you that percentage. I don't know that exact number, sorry. But we have approximately 1,000 first-year students who do.
Senator Tucker.
So, just to clarify, as I understand it, Supplyside Economics tells us that in a scarce market, the cost of a commodity good goes up to push down demand. To that end, does it not make more sense, I'm asking hypothetically, to develop more housing, to make more housing available so that we can push down the price of housing to our students and take on that expense to ourselves as a university over a longer period of time? That way we have cheaper housing available to more students?
Yes. And let me follow up because I'm sure there's more, and then why don't we? Would probably be the follow-up. And it goes back to, because we believe it is happening around us, right? And you would say, the follow-up to that would be, why let a private corporation or private corporations build around us and possibly reap profits from that? And the answer to that is, it takes a lot. I mean, Wichita State, we're letting them also take all the risk. And so again, 7 years down the road, there may not be that demand. And we, again, projecting our demand as we do when we model where we see on-campus housing demand going, we may not be able to support it 4 or 5 years down the road. And so what in the short term makes sense right now to build, building just lasts for a long time and you have to continue to pay it off. It's usually a 30-year bond payment. And I don't think we're ready right now and or have the capacity to take on a 30-year risk right now, is the short answer. And because also other people have seen that there's a high demand and are able to move in faster than we're able to build, and so being we know those buildings are happening, we are waiting to see where that flushes out with demand for housing on campus.
Senator Mounts.
So you are raising the rates, if I remember, if I did the math correctly, for 771 beds or rooms. I'm not sure which one. I guess rooms.
It'd be beds. You're right.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah. And then you're lowering it for 444. So my question is, what are you doing for more low-income students? Because if it is a first-year requirement for students to be here, I know I had to take out student loans to cover that. So we could potentially be pushing away first-year low-income students. So what are you doing to, I guess, help those students.
Right, and I guess my answer to that would be we are trying to either, like, going back to we're leaving the meal plan costs flat, and we're reducing our lower cost options so that folks without as much money can get in for a lower price point. And so to your point, that is, we targeted the 400 to 500 bed spaces that we could lower to lower those so that those are more affordable. What I can tell you is our demand and what we see fill up last is our doubles and triples as well. And so we do try and provide an option that, again, is lower cost. I wouldn't use the term low cost, but lower cost, and we're trying to lower those lower cost options as much as possible.
Are there any other questions? Is that your hand up? All right, so I do have one myself. I'm just kind of curious about the process in which, if I was already in an expandable,
Yep.
What does that process look like if it were to get expanded?
Yeah, so what happens is if we saw that we had a demand for a space and your number came up, if you will, we would contact you and let you know, hey, you're going to get a roommate. They're going to move in this day or at this time. What I would say, and Mandy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that has happened mostly or almost extensively before people even move in. So I don't believe we've expanded any rooms since move-in time because we have a small number of people who don't show up and we have a small number of people who cancel out in the first 2 weeks. And so generally before you move in, you know you're going to have a roommate. And the process is there's already enough furniture in the room to house both of you. We did find what we were trying to minimize the amount of furniture that stayed in there, and we only put one desk in each of those. And we heard immediately from the people whose spaces were expanded that they wanted 2 desks, so we did go back and put an extra desk in each of those spaces. But that's basically the process. As you're notified, you're given some time to prepare that space to allow someone to move in there, or you have time to mentally prepare before you move in.
Senator Tucker.
So, as I understand it, most of the housing provided to students right now is available through a third party, correct? So that we're paying for a lease and then selling the rooms to students, correct?
Yes.
Follow up? To that end, would it not be cheaper ultimately for us to do away with the third party entirely, say we will construct the building on our own, we will provide the housing to our students on our own, and get away from the third party as a whole, just take it on ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, and if that was available to us to take on a debt like that, then that's something that, yes, it would make sense for us to explore. Again, Wichita State, currently, as you all have seen, as we're trying to build a new business building and other buildings across campus, it's not as easy as just saying we want to borrow this money and build. Like it's an extensive process, and we have to be careful about borrowing money and making sure we're able to pay it off. So again, it goes back to all of the risk of that building currently falls on those developers and those owners of that building, that if in 4 years or 5 years the demand isn't there and our lease expires, we can say we no longer want to rent this building from you. We're now just going to have Shocker Hall as our on-campus. So they are taking on that risk. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And again, they were able to build at a time where Wichita State could not. And so they were able to build a building that, as we've seen, there's a high demand for based off of the fact that, again, the folks who stay at the flats don't have to stay on campus. Not a single person in there. And they have chosen to go into a building that they built, and it's been a good experience for them as they've chosen to stay on campus. So.
Senator Mounts.
When is the last time that resident assistants got some sort of like pay increase or cost of living adjustment?
2 years ago. We used to not do a stipend for our RAs, and that started fall of 18. Fall of 18. And not to be, they are paid through room and board, and so they got a 2.4% increase last year. And depending on the type of room they live in, they'll get a 3% increase this upcoming year. But that's just being silly.
Senator Tucker.
Given that the students voted down the referendum for the new business building and the clear demand for housing, I'm curious what the argument is for prioritizing the business building over the housing when clearly the housing is needed, but we don't see the business building as a need.
Well, and again, I would go back to, because someone did build it, right? I mean, and the building is there, and it was built by a developer that was willing to take the risk to build it out of their own pocket. And there's, again, at very little risk to WSU, we only have we do a 2-year lease with them on each of the buildings, and so with the option to renew each after 2 years. So I go back to, they are taking on the risk, they've taken on the risk. My understanding is there's not someone willing to take on a risk of building. And again, I don't know all that goes into building the business building, and I don't want to, those are very different opportunities in my head, but it just goes to someone willing to take the risk to put the money out to build a building that you hope will pay itself off in 20 or 30 years.
Senator Mounts.
So since, $30 million of the business building was fundraised from private donors, and then now the students are covering that other 200 by cuts through student involvement, if I remember correctly, or one of those other programs. Is it feasible for WSU to fundraise from private donors to build a new house, or to build a new dorm building?
I would love if that was possible. I don't know what the feasibility of that is. I know that current fundraising, obviously, there's targets for where that money is going to go, but that would be a question for the great work that's done over in the foundation. I don't know what the feasibility is or what the market would bear in terms of trying to raise that.
Are there any other questions for our speakers? Seeing none, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all very much, and I appreciate all the work you all do on behalf of students, and thank you for having us today.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in public forum at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into section 5, officer reports. Starting item A, President's report.
Hello everyone. I hope you had a great weekend and fall break. I hope it was relaxing. So first thing, the presidential search committee is now over. So the search committee has now put forward our candidates to the regents. So now it is on them to pick our next president. So I'm not quite sure whenever that will be announced. That is on them. So once I hear something and if I can share it with you, I will. Today, Vice President Berth and I attended a lunch and a hard hat tour with the regents. The hard hat tour was of the Y/Wellness Center. It's really cool. It's going to be super awesome whenever it opens up. There's a nice little space where we can all study at. So if you're not into working out, you can just go there anyways. There's a lot of lighting. It's going to be great. As Dr. Estyn mentioned earlier, we do have an appointment for Supreme Court Justice coming up, so that'll be coming up next week. So if that does go through, that means we would have one more appointment that we need for student representatives. Would that one person fill a seat to allow the court to make quorum, or do we need one more? Okay, So that can be either the faculty or the student. Okay, so still Supreme Court wouldn't meet quorum, so we'd still need one more person. But we do have another interview coming up soon for another Supreme Court justice. A fun fact from the RSC Board of Directors meeting last Thursday that I thought I would share with you all is that there was a 42% increase in revenue whenever Panda Express and Freddy's opened in the RSC. 42%, which is crazy. Apparently, it's usually less than 20 when new restaurants open up and whatnot, and so the fact that it was 42% is amazing. It has decreased now because that was whenever it did just the Panda Express and Freddy's did just open. So now that they're not as new, they're still bringing in a lot more revenue, but not that 42%. One last thing on my behalf is that Gina Crabtree has started pushing out officially that students are now able to select a chosen name on some of their documents within Banner and if requested on your diploma, things like that. So if you want to check that out, it's they have a website for it, so it's wichita.edu/name, I do believe. I did follow up with Gina about that also because I did have a few questions in regards to like one of the areas that they list that a legal name needs to be used is communication with, it said communications of family to, things like that, and seeing if there's a way that we could possibly use a chosen name rather than a legal name for that. But I'll let you know what I hear back from Gina in regards to those things. So now for the treasurer. The Budget and Finance Committee is currently working through the applications for individual and organizational funding and is going smoothly. Student fees are quickly approaching and applications are still open. This week I have been preparing for student fee... Sorry, I cannot talk today. This week I have been preparing for the Student Fees Committee by reviewing the previous year's records to give me context for this year's meeting and looking over the recommendations that the committee made last year. If anyone is interested in joining the Student Fees Committee, I encourage you to apply soon. And thank you to those who have applied. I appreciate it. For Director of Public Relations, thank you for submitting your questions for our annual survey. They will be compiled into the survey by Friday and then sent out via Qualtrics. Our next event is this Monday, the 21st, from 11 a.m. to 12:30. We will be tabling for Woo's Birthday Bash. If you are available, I will need some help with this event, so please sign up on the Google Sheet that I have posted on the Facebook page. Please reach out with any questions, and thank you all again. And that is it.
Are there any questions for the President? Senator Webb?
Do you know which positions on the Student Fees Committee haven't had anyone be applied or applied for them?
I do not off the top of my head.
Senator Zacharias?
How many total applications were there for the Student Fees Committee?
I know of 2 directly off my head, but I think there might be 4 because I think I'm missing one, and then Vice President Berth told me that he has one as well that I have not personally received yet. So I think 4 at max, but 2 for sure. 3 for sure. Just don't have that 3rd one yet.
Senator James?
How many candidates did the President Search Committee give the Board of Regents?
I'm afraid I cannot disclose that. But we were told that we have to send 3 to 5. So I can tell you that, but I can't tell you how many we actually move forward with. So.
Any other questions for the President? Senator Zacharias?
I know a few people who wanted to apply but couldn't due to time commitments. If there aren't more applications for these positions, would the committee consider moving the time to meet the possibility of having more applicants?
There are lots of head nods over there. So yes, I would assume so. So, yeah. So I think just if you're interested and you want to be on the committee, just go ahead and apply. we would like to try and keep the same meeting time or something close to it, but if it doesn't work, we'll try and figure something out. So.
Any other questions for the president? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move into item B, Vice President's report. Most of mine was already covered in there as we're tagging along for our short week within the break. The rest has been filled with administrative things, but I do stand for questions about anything that I may have said in previous, or if you're curious about things. Senator Ritchie?
Community garden update?
Was that?
Community garden update?
So right now we're still stuck in, and stuck's probably the wrong word, but laying out the design that we have in mind and looking for grants. How much money that we can find outside to fund it will determine what design overall we can go with. So just coming up with several different variants that would work for the amount of space that's there, reducing the space but focusing in, increasing the space, things like that. But I will be sure to send out an update when we get some movement. Senator Turan.
Hi. So what would help move that like a little bit faster? Like, do you need help, like volunteers? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So like I said, right now for the design aspect, it's basically me planning out different variants on it. For looking for grants, there's myself, there's Maddie Laughlin, and a few of others from the Green Group whose names I am forgetting at the moment. But any help is appreciated. If you have other ideas or have had experience with other community gardens and want to share, stop by my office and I'll get you the meeting times for our next meeting. Or take down the information that you do have and provide it at our next and pass it along beforehand. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So will you send out like meeting times?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Moving into section 6, other reports. Item A currently says the student advocate, and that was we were planning on doing an update for food for fines, but we're still calculating all of the donations and whatnot. So we'll be skipping that one and going to item B, academics chair.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Due to the continuity of my committee failing to meet quorum, we were not able to discuss the topics and issues that fall within the academic committee. So I will submit my report to Shocker Sync. Other than that, if after the meeting I could speak with these people, it would be great. Alyssa Bradley, Marissa Cunningham, Bridget Kennedy, and Kate Miller. And then I'm open for questions.
Any questions for the chair? Senator Day, I saw you first.
How many total meetings have met quorum?
0.
Senator Peterson.
Being that you're the chair, have you made any initiatives so far to maybe start on some projects so you have something to bring to the committee when you do meet quorum?
Yes, I'm thinking about a refresh, recharge finals thing before finals week where it's an event to help people de-stress or gain more studying skills for finals. And that's just one of the things that we're coming up with.
Any other questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into item C, safety and student services.
I will be submitting my report to the record, and I stand for questions.
Senator Turan.
Did we ever get that section covered, like that we missed during our safety walk?
No.
Are we going to cover it, or do to get full data?
That's a topic for the safety committee to address at our next meeting.
Any other questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into item D, Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion Chair.
Alrighty, so it was a pretty slow week with not having classes or SGA or anything like that on Monday and Tuesday. That being said, I did have a meeting this morning with Bobby Berry, who is the chair of the committee I serve on the President's Diversity Council. He is interested in basically doing a virtual town hall where essentially all the panelists would be on video, and then questions would be asked through a digital format. My committee today, I had tasked Senators Wynn and Senator Sanchez basically to come up with ideas last week of what we could do for a town hall event regarding DEI's mission. They do align quite a bit, so I'm going to be presenting what my committee members, those two specifically, came up with, and to Bobby Berry sometime, I believe, next week. We should have an actual committee meeting between my PDC committee. So other than that, I really don't have anything else. Just trying to focus on a few initiatives. And the other thing I think we're doing is a educational kind of online presentation of education on gendered pronouns sometime before this month is over for LGBTQ History Month. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into item E, Ways and Means.
All right, hi everyone. So Ways and Means Committee, we listened to some new organizations that are wanting to get recognized. Some of the bills are on the floor today, so we will be discussing those. So currently, actually, you should have received this in the email. The Supreme Court bills, there are 3 of them. My committee is currently looking at them. Today was our first time discussing it, and we're going to discuss it next 2 of the bills. We will be discussing it again next time, and we're going to go in depth and see if you want to change anything, if you want to make it sound better, what do we want to remove or add, and then you all will have another opportunity to, vote on it and pass it, or, not vote, or deny it, whatever you all deem fit, is what I'm trying to say. So after the Supreme Court thing is done, we will be focusing on Senate Review Board and, our election process and whatnot, or just, stuff in general that needs to be done that was on our, list that we want to get done. With that being said, I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into section 7, appointments. And as a reminder, both of these, both A and B, we did go through last week and we tabled them to today. So if there are no questions for SB-62-065, appointing the position of the returning adult senator, we'll move directly into debate.
Point of information.
Senator Mounts.
Do we have enough in attendance to confirm appointments?
No.
Point of information.
Senator Khan.
Can we pass these bills with unanimous consent?
As long as it is truly unanimous. If one person would have an objection against one of them, we would then move into an actual vote, which would result in a failure because we don't have enough numbers. Does that make sense? Senator Mounts. Oh, I thought you had another question. Are there any questions about this particular bill?
Point of information. How many are we short right now?
Hold on. No. Sorry, my calculation was wrong. So we currently have 30 in attendance, and we need 28, so we would be able to pass them. Sorry, we've had a few come in and out, and so with those additions, we would have 30. Any questions on the main bill?
I have a question. This is a very dumb question. Did you say we do have enough or we don't?
We do, after adding the couple people that walked in. So my sheet currently has us under, but with the couple that came in a little later, we would have 30, and the requirement would be 28. So we do have enough to pass it.
Super follow-up to just look at procedurally. When we tabled the bill last week, did we officially set a date to take it off the table?
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion was to table it until next week's meeting. Any other questions on this bill? Senator Babin.
I move to call the previous question.
Where was it? Yeah, I was looking for the voting requirement. Technically, we haven't entered the debate. So I won't see that one as we haven't had a chance for a debate. Moving into the debate, is there anyone wishing to speak in debate at this time? Senator Mounts.
I motion to pass SB 6265 by unanimous consent.
Any objections? Seeing none, SB-62-065 has passed with unanimous consent of the Senate. Moving to item B, SB-62-066, appointing the position of at-large senator and DEI committee member. Are there any questions on this bill before we move into the debate? Seeing none, we'll move into the debating period. Is there anyone wishing to speak in debate at this time? Senator Mounts.
So I know that with Kylie's resignation, that left some people kind of sour in this body, and that makes me a little upset because I know she did a very good job as the chief of operations. I remember she told me she had to read the entire Robert's Rules book over the summer, which is not an easy read. I don't even think I've quite done that yet. So I definitely think that she would be a good addition to this Senate. I know that during her resignation, she wanted to say she wanted to be a part of this Senate. So I highly recommend all of you confirm her appointment. I know she'll do a great job, and I know that the issues with time constraints have kind of been solved because it is a little bit different going from 25 hours a week into SGA, including the meeting, to like 2 including the meeting, or excluding the meeting, my bad. So I would highly recommend that you all vote in favor of this nomination.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in the debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into the voting period. All those in favor, please raise your hand and hold them high. All opposed, same sign. With that, SB-62-066 has passed its 2/3 majority requirement with 30 total in favor, 0 against, and 11 abstentions. So moving past Section 8 into Section 9, new business, Item A. SB-62-060, grant recognition to the Electrical Engineering and Computer Science PhD Club. Does the author wish to speak to this bill?
No.
Since there is not a representative, does the Ways and Means Chair wish to speak on their behalf?
Yes. So, we have a lot of engineering organizations on campus, and one thing we liked about this one was that it's for PhD students. Those students are getting PhD in engineering. So, and this organization also allows them to go to conferences and actually do pretty cool things. So this is something that, is good for them, and we would love to have it in our, on our campus. So saying that, I would encourage you all to vote in favor. And yeah, that's about it.
With that, are there any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into the debate period. Is there anyone wishing to speak in debate at this time?
Point of order, is this a Senate bill that only gets one read or two?
It would be 2, which means we'll move into debate next week. Thank you. Moving to item B, SB-62-061, grant recognition to the tabletop gaming. Does the author wish to speak to this bill?
No.
Seeing no representative, does the Ways and Means Chair wish to speak to this bill?
Yes. So the tabletop member, he decided to email me something he wanted to say since he couldn't be here. So I'm just going to read that off to you. Hello, thank you all for your time and concern in regards to the creation of my organization. Tabletop Gaming wants to provide a fun place for students to go when they need a break from the consistent stress of college life. The goal of the club is to relax and meet new people, while also getting away from screens and playing games that could otherwise be difficult to play. There are various games we already have recommended, such as Magic the Gathering, Cards Against Humanity, Betrayal at the House on the Hill, and more. The meeting time has not been set in stone, but as of now, it looks to be once a week, probably on the weekend. More members would come about through various ways, such as networking, hosting events, and advertisements around campus. Thanks again for your time. Have a good day. So I think that pretty much covers what they do, and I think it's a pretty cool thing to have on campus, as we really don't have like a, an organization that kind of, does old style games.
Any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into debate on this item next week. Moving into item C, SB-62-063, grant recognition to the... Gabe, do you know what the abbreviation is? Because I opened up the bill and it's not spelled out there either. IEEEEMBS. WSU. I know what WSU stands for. Stating its purpose to promote this chapter among biomedical, electrical, and mechanical engineering students. Communicate with IEEE, Wichita section officers for future seminars. Does the author wish to speak to this bill?
Yeah, so the only clarification, I'm sorry, I don't know what it stands for, but I will send you that if you really want to know. So the one clarification to understand about this organization, IEEE is a national organization that has subsections of it, but based off of how they're classified nationally, each of their subsections have to be recognized by the university or by a university in order to have it. So this organization connects to IEEE, who connects to the national group, but in order for it to exist here, it has to have its own recognition by the university, which is why they went through the recognition process. So if you're looking at it thinking like, oh, well, they already exist, why are we doing this? It's a subsection of the bigger group that has to get recognition in order to exist. Yeah.
Questions for the author? Senator Babin.
Just point of information, I looked it up. It's the engineering and medicine and biology sciences.
Thank you. Senator Webb.
Does IEEE stand for Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers?
That sounds right, but I can't say that that is what it truly is. But I appreciate the input. Thank you. With that, are there any other questions for the author? Seeing none and no representative here, does the Ways and Means wish to speak to this?
I just like to say that the committee did a pretty good job at, looking through these organizations, and as Gabe mentioned, they're part of a national organization in a sense. So having this on campus would really promote Wichita State University. So I encourage you all to vote in favor.
Any questions for the chair? Seeing none, we'll move into debate on this item next week. Moving to item D, SB-62-067, grant recognition to the Society of Cosplayers. Does the author wish to speak to this bill?
No.
Is that done? Right? Seeing representatives, do you wish to speak to this? Please approach the podium.
Sorry about my inexperience here. This is my first time on the podium. So, yeah. Hi, my name is Anthony Vu. I'm the Vice President of Society of Cosplayer, short for SOC. So the goal for SOC, right, is to, with the increase of pop culture in mainstream media and the massive popularity of cosplay in media, we felt that having a cosplay organization on campus would attract many like-minded people into joining. As of right now, KU and K-State has an organization for cosplay, and we should too. So the organization goal is to create a fun and interactive community here on campus for cosplayers or people who are interested in getting into cosplay. We are also wanting to teach practical skills for all of our members. Practical skills include foam work, sewing, molding, 3D printings, and a lot more. Through workshops and through workshops and speakers. Hopefully in the future we are able to go out to competitions and win, but that's about it. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the representative?
I'm just letting you guys know I'm shaking right now. But yeah.
Seeing none, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we will move into the debate on that item next week. Bless you. Moving into item E, FB-62-010, organizational funding. Does the author wish to speak to this bill?
No.
Now that you can see it, are there any questions for the author? Can't see it written. Senator Mounts.
Is there any way that on these bills we could get a total remaining?
I have it that I sent out to everyone last week, so I can just send it to Michael. If I pull up my computer, I can send it over and he can put it up. Sound good? And then we'll just subtract. I'll subtract that from it in the email.
Senator Babin, do you still have a question?
This is kind of a dumb question, but I can't remember if we've awarded things to the robotics club already or if it was the rockets club before, and in my head they're just kind of the same thing.
Yeah, so we awarded to the Rockets and the Drone Club, but not the Robotics Club.
Any other questions? Senator Tucker? Can you use your microphone?
Point of privilege. Can you enlarge that a little bit?
Yes. Is that large enough for you, Senator Tucker?
It is.
All right. Are there any other questions for the author? Seeing none, we'll move into debate on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into the voting period. All those in favor, please raise your hand and hold them high. All opposed, same sign. FB-62-010 has passed its simple majority requirement, receiving 30 total in favor, 0 against, and 11 abstentions. Seeing as those that we have appointed are not here, we will skip past swearing in to Section 11, remarks and announcements. Are there any remarks and announcements? And I saw Gabe's animated hand first.
Two things. For senators, I sent you an email this morning. I know it feels like we've been doing a bunch of assessments and surveys recently, and I know, I'm not going to lie to you, we have. But for those who haven't done the demographic survey, it is optional, but if you want to do it, please do it. We also sent out kind of a survey about, like, tell me about yourself, so, like, just fun facts about you, because we're going to start doing, like, celebrating your birthdays and other things like that. And then the last thing, this morning I sent a brand new assessment. It's our Senate assessment. So we're looking kind of at your pre and post experience with the Senate. There's only 6 questions on it, so if you can take a few minutes to do that. If you didn't get the email, let me know, and I'll make sure that we send it out to you. Second, tomorrow we have Niall DeMarco was that your announcement? Well, too bad. At 7 p.m. in the Metroplex. Tickets are free, but you can make sure you go to the ODI website to get a ticket. It's going to be super awesome. I have one more spot for an exclusive meet and greet with him. If anyone is interested in doing the meet and greet, never mind. Someone got it. But if, like, someone else is interested, like, I may be able to finagle another spot for it. So make sure you go to that. It's going to be super cool, super awesome. I'm excited about it. And then the last thing, make sure when you are, like, talking, you're using the mic, because the people in the video can't hear you any other way. Like, everything audio is done through the mics. So make sure you are using the mics when you are speaking so that the people can hear you. Cool?
Senator Mounts.
One thing Gabe failed to mention is if you go, this is not an attack, I promise. If you go to wichita.edu/ODI shop, that's where you can get your ticket. It says it's free. It says $0, so you still have to, like, order it. They do take walk-ins at the door, but they prefer for you to get a ticket online. You can still do that. There's around 200 left. We're trying to get to 800 is the goal. We're at 600 right now, so if you and 200 of your friends could please sign up and get a ticket and show up, we would love that. Second, to get away from all fun stuff, we only had 2 of our 5 committees meet quorum today. And that is very disappointing because we have a lot of work that needs to get done for the rest of this year. And if we have a committee that has consistently not met quorum, we're going to have some issues, all right? So please reach out to your other senators and get them to your committee meetings.
Senator Martin.
I'm in choir, so I'm saying this, but candlelight tickets are already now on sale, and they sell out every year. So if you want to come to the candlelight choir concert, it's before Thanksgiving this year, but it's a Christmas concert. But tickets are already on sale.
Senator Flores.
Hi, next week the Wichita State debate team is going to be hosting a tournament here at Wichita State. So there will be debaters here over the weekend, and some of our own students will be competing.
Zacharias was first. Senator Zacharias.
So I have been told that a few of you guys still have pictures from the safety walk. If you prefer not to email them to me, you can come to me after and I'll give you my phone number to text them. But we still only have photos from like 2 groups, and there were 4 groups. So please give me those photos, because some of the language used in the reports that were written out have been found to be confusing by the facilities and UPD. So we need photos to point those individuals in the right direction.
Senator Mounts.
Senator Flores, do y'all need judges for that tournament? Because I would be willing to do that if I am eligible.
No, the only people who are allowed to judge are faculty from universities. Also, you're not old enough and a debate coach. So yeah, those are basically the only people who judge.
Senator Turan.
Okay, so Miss Latina WSU is hosting their informational for 2020 Wednesday, November 13th in the RSC Smoky Hills Room 258 at 6 p.m. if anyone's interested in competing. And then secondly, I'd just like to remind everyone to be respectful of each other. And I know we all know each other on a personal level, but there are people watching, especially with presidential search committee, people going, they've watch these things to know what's going on in campus. And I just feel like we should better represent ourselves during meeting. Yeah, thanks.
Senator Ritchie.
So I'm going to plug some more School of Music events. Friday the 18th, that's 2 days from now, we're having our low strings faculty recital. It's going to be great. Sunday the 20th of this month, we're having our Impulse percussion group giving a recital. And then something that I'm really excited about is because it's like an on-campus class. The 29th is going to be the orchestra concert here at WSU. And if you guys can keep up the hard work you guys do, plugging these in class, I'm still really trying to. I'm hoping that these numbers are going to keep going up.
Treasurer Osterman.
So I sent the current numbers over to Michael. If you want to put it up on the screen, you can, or if you want to send it out, it's up to you guys. I don't know what you want to do.
I'll send it out after this.
Okay. Is it?
Senator Babin.
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind people that we shouldn't be asking leading question, which a leading question is a question that prompts or encourages a desired answer. There were definitely a couple of those questions that were asked tonight, and those are questions that are not allowed through Robert's rules, as well as they don't look good on us. We need to be asking questions that foster conversation, not questions that just give us an answer that we are looking for.
Senator Martin.
If anybody's stressed, petting a chinchilla is a really good stress reliever. So come see me before you leave.
Senator Nazir.
Regarding Senator Babin's comment, is that just regarding like when we're questioning like a speaker, or is it just questioning periods in general?
It's questioning periods in general. So the basic idea is you don't want to sway someone to answer in a specific way, because that's not the way that we ask questions. We ask questions in order to get honest answers from people, and leading questions do not lead to honest answers.
Senator Mounts.
On that topic, I am at fault of doing that. When I was asking about the Board of Regents question, I've also been corrected by the actual editor of the Sunflower. So I will sometimes we do make mistakes. So I questioned about the person on the Board of Regents who owns part of the flats. They're not on the Board of Regents anymore. So that was at my fault. So I will take blame for that.
Senator Khan.
All right, so after all that sad note, I want to end on a good note. I just want to say, a big thanks, and I'm very proud of the Ways and Means Committee. We are the newest committee, and we have been meeting quorum, so yes. And I'm just very proud of you all, and I know other committees can do great as well, so keep on trying.
Treasurer Osterman.
Okay, just point of information. What I sent over to Michael does not have today's bill on it or last week's, and that's because I don't have access to it on my computer right now, but I can send those numbers to him as well. Okay?
Senator Izzo.
Thanks, Richa.
Senator Khan.
That came out wrong. I mean, y'all are doing great, but, everyone has room to improve, and so even me, so good luck.
Any other remarks and announcements? Seeing none, we will hereby adjourn at 8:31 p.m. with a silent roll call.
Will the people from the academics committee that Senator Cowden called please come forward?
Matthew, don't leave. Matthew, don't.